So what does this mean? Stay with people until they believe. Well, they don't want to hear this stuff all the time. We'll talk about the weather then. They know who you are. They know what you're about. They know what you believe, kind of. Just stay with them. Be their friend. Oh, if I'm going to be friendly with them, then they're going to get to know me a little bit. Right. And I'm going to have to get to know a little bit about them, and they're probably going to have things about them that I don't particularly like. And they're going to discover things about me that I don't really want them to know, maybe. You want them to go to heaven or not? Jesus healed the man, but he cared about him enough to go back to him to make sure he got what he really needed. This is what the church does a lot of times. I'm not saying there's something wrong with it. I'm just saying it's incomplete. Like churches that get on the bandwagon every once in a while, for example, and they're going to feed people. And so they'll go out, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying there's something wrong with it. We do it too. Okay, they go. We're going to feed people, so they'll get, maybe they'll get a line going, and like do a turkey dinner at Thanksgiving and stuff like that, and have the poor folks from downtown come by and all that. But do they, after they have given them the food and everything, do they spend some time with that poor person? Poor meaning they don't have money. Do they spend time with that person and make sure that the one who made the food possible is introduced to them? The only place that I've ever been that they actually did it right, really. I used to go to a rescue mission once or twice a month because the folks that ran the rescue mission, they went to our church, and I didn't go there out of obligation because they asked me, "Can you come down and preach?" And I said, "I'll pray about it." You don't ever do anything without asking. Okay? So I prayed about it, and God said, "Sure, go down there." And it wasn't a pleasant place. It was a little bitty building, and all they had for heating was little space heaters, so it was cold in the wintertime. And they had swamp coolers in this little bitty building. They crammed like 50 people in this little building and feed them. He said, "It doesn't sound like they're doing it right. Just listen." And so in summertime, so you're either sweating or you're freezing. You have a little bit of time in between where it's kind of comfortable. And you bring people off the street, throw them in the back of a pickup, and take them down to the rescue mission. They haven't had a bath. That means that you're hoping that the food has got a lot of aroma that day because it's not going to be too pleasant if it isn't. And so what they would do is they'd bring all them guys in, they'd sit them down, they would serve them the food, we'd pray, and then while they're eating, you'd preach to them. That's what I mean by doing it right. They make them wait. We want to listen to this preacher first. They ain't going to listen to nothing if you make them do that. Right? And then some of them go, "Okay, well, we're going to feed them first, and then we're going to preach to them." No, if you do that, you fed them already. Now they want to leave. They don't want to listen to nothing. See? So if you got them there, you're feeding them. You're doing the right thing, the decent thing, right? They're being able to eat, and you're also giving them the Word of God. And I would always stay there afterwards. I'd say, "If you guys have any questions, you want anything you want to talk about," and I dressed like this too when I would go down to the rescue mission. "Why'd you dress like that?" Because one day, one of them young men walked up to me and he said, "Pastor, can I talk to you?" I said, "Sure, what do you want to talk about?" He said, "I just wanted to tell you that I really appreciate the fact that you come down here in a suit and tie all the time. None of them other guys do." All the other preachers that would come down there. None of them other guys do. He goes, "I really appreciate that." He said, "Most of the rest of us do too. Because you give us hope by showing us respect. Because you come dressed for the job, And the rest of them guys treat us like, well. And I would always hang around. Sometimes I'd get the opportunity to lead one of them guys to Jesus afterwards, and they wouldn't answer it in 5 days, Come back around. This is serious business. This is heaven and hell. We tend to not think of it that way. Why? Somebody will get to them. We don't know that. You doing all right? So stay with people until they believe. So let's look at Luke 18 again. I know this seems kind of like, why are you jumping back and forth? Read it again. I'm going to read it again. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because He has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. The gospel is the same as it was when Jesus was here. It hasn't changed. People try to say, well, people have changed. No, they haven't. Technology's changed. Understanding has changed. But people are the same. So if people are the same, the gospel needs to be the same too. So the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because He has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. Before you ever talk to people about Jesus, you need to say, Lord, in some way, say, Lord, anoint me. Be with me. Same difference. Better if you say anoint. Because you're agreeing with the Bible. Okay? And so Jesus read this thing. Every place He went, He read, He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord, which means God's not mad at you. That's what that means. God's not mad at you. He wants to help you. To proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. So that people are still poor. Right? People are still brokenhearted. People are still being held captive, sometimes literally. People are still blind. And people are still oppressed. They need to hear from the same God that Jesus preached. Because God still wants to help them. All Jesus did was speak to people about God and pray for them. Speak to them, pray for them. Speak to them, pray for them. We can do the same. Let's finish. John chapter 9 again. Verse 39 says, and Jesus said, for judgment I have come into the world. Now this word judgment doesn't mean to look at someone and go, yep, you're a good guy, or no, you're a bad guy. All people think of Jesus like Santa Claus, Got a naughty lip. Naughty, nice, naughty. We've seen it. Anyway, this word judgment doesn't mean judgment like I'm looking at you to judge you. What it means is you look at Him and you know where you stand. Got that? Not that you're doing the judging. They're looking and going, I'm okay, or no, I'm not. Okay? It means to make a dividing line between two things. Okay? And Jesus said, for judgment I am come into this world, that those who do not see may see. See? So obviously He's not talking about judging people. He's saying that what I represent causes people to see or cause them to go blind. See that? And then some of the Pharisees who were with Him heard these words, and they said to Him, are we blind also? Jesus said to them, if you were blind, you would have no sin. Doesn't that sound backwards? If you were blind, you would have no sin. In the Old Testament, there's 7 deadly sins. Okay? And then you keep reading and it said, but there's a few things I really hate. Okay? One of those things is those who sow discord among people. So when we're judging, what are we doing? Sowing discord. God hates that. Why? Because it keeps people from seeing Him. He said, if you were blind, you would have no sin, but you say, we see, therefore your sin remains. We can see. Do we see or do we judge? It isn't our job to fix people. We get this idea that, we're supposed to, Christians, we get this idea, and sometimes we deserve the reputation of trying to straighten people out. They're always trying to tell us, and then we get the thing of, well, but y'all are hypocrites because we all have issues, right? Let me tell you the truth. Everybody's a hypocrite. I don't care what you think about that. It's true. In one way or another, you are. You may not want to be, you may not mean to be, but in one way or another, you are. The minute you get the thought of, I am, make a comparison between you and somebody else, you just stepped into the role of hypocrite. It's not our job to straighten people out, to fix them. It's our job to introduce them to Jesus. He's the fixer. One of the most beautiful Christians I ever met was on death row. Some of you have heard this before. Death row, he murdered people. Got all high on some kind of drug and went into a bunch of convenience stores and killed 5 or 6 different people. A year later, I met him on death row. Wasn't trying to meet him, it just happened. It was one of those, I call it, one of those divine appointments. You don't know what's going to happen, but there that person is, and God's in the middle of this thing. He just radiated out of that place of darkness. And that's what he said to me. He had a smile that wouldn't leave his face. And you know how some people smile and you go, yeah, that's fake. No, he didn't have that. It was one of them kind of grins you just can't wipe off. And I said, tell me why, I understand, you love the Lord and all that, but why are you so happy? He goes, listen, I got a great job. He said, what I did was terrible, I understand that, and I deserve what I'm going to get. He said, I got a year or two at the most. He was a young man, he was about 20 years old. I got a year or two at the most. He goes, but, I'm surrounded by people that don't know Jesus. So we all are. But he took it upon himself. See? I'm surrounded by all these folks that don't know Jesus. And these, in our mind, these are the worst kind of people in the world. They're all murderers. Every person in that place that he was at was a murderer, had killed at least one person. He's surrounded by them. He said, but I'm going to make sure as many of these guys as possible before I get taken out of here for something I did that I deserve. I'm going to make sure as many of them as possible are going to meet me up there. He said, and you know what? He said, I don't know how it happened exactly. In other words, he didn't know how it started. He said, but people would send him letters. Would you pray for my brother? Would you pray for my sister? Would you pray for my family? Because they'd heard about him getting saved, And here he is on death row, and he's got this, and he's trying to get these murderers into heaven. People, that's one of the most common questions you hear from people that don't understand Jesus. Well, will God forgive a murderer? Yeah. Is there supposed to be a limit to this thing? He forgave you. I'm not a murderer. I never killed anybody. Jesus said you did. What do you mean? He says, if you look upon your brother with aught in your heart, you're a murderer. You know, how many of us have had this thought? I just wish they would die. That's murder. I didn't pull the trigger. Yes, you did. In your heart. We're all in the same boat. That means we're all human beings. Not all of us are in the same lifeboat then. We have a wonderful opportunity. We're surrounded with people that don't know him. We don't even have to go looking for him. The job's not hard. All you have to do is look around. Obviously not in church, you're not going to find much, but as soon as you walk outside, there they are. Amen? One more time, Luke 4. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and recovery of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. You know what the difference is between God and us? This is going to get us all. God sees value in everyone around us. Ouch. He must have. Because it says, the scripture that almost every Christian knows, John 3:16, for God so loved the world. So God sees value in everybody around us. Now, sometimes we have a hard time seeing it, but God sees value in everyone around us. So it's not our job to fix them, it's our job to introduce them to the one who saw value in us. In the angry young man that just couldn't drown it out no matter how much I drank. Could not drown out the bitterness in me. He saw value. Now I'm particularly honored. Really. God had to give me a wonderful woman, my wife. And you all know her, she's like a ray of sunshine in the room when she walks in, right? You know how she is? Now, I didn't think she was all that great. I mean, I liked her and all that. I loved her as far as, humanly possible. Now our love is beyond humanly possible. But I had this wonderful woman, but she didn't know Jesus either at first. And then she became acquainted with him. See, God knows just the right person to send our way. As ornery as I was, as stubborn, I'm stubborn too. I really am. That's one of my faults. It is. I'm stubborn. Boy, I get my mind fixed about something, man, I am hard to push off of that. I might be persuaded, but you better be busy. Like one of my cousins, me and my brother, and one of my cousins were having a discussion one night, and my my second cousin, my cousin's son, sitting there, and he's listening to us go back and forth, and my brother and my cousin are both firefighters, and they're kind of they've been in L.A. for a long time, so they have some thoughts that us country folks don't. You understand what I mean by that? They have a little liberal in their thinking every once in a while. Not completely, but in some ways. And so my cousin is actually more conservative than my brother is, and even though he's been out there longer. I don't know how that happened, but anyways. So they're going back and forth. So my cousin's kind of playing the devil's advocate. In other words, he's siding with my brother just to try to rile me. See? And so they're trying to trap me, and we're talking about political stuff, and they're trying to corner me in some way, and they just can't do it. So finally, my cousin looks over at his son, and he goes, Ethan, let this be a lesson to you. If you ever want to talk to Uncle Greg, make sure you've got your guns loaded, because his are. So, I'm that way. There's good things about that, too. I became persuaded about Jesus. You cannot push me off of that. It's good to be stubborn about that. And God help you if God says, stick him to me. And I take it upon myself to get you led to Jesus. I am not going to leave you alone. But because I'm that way, God had to give me someone who is exceptional in that bubbly, sunshiny way. Well, I wouldn't have listened. Had to put us in a situation where we would fall in love with each other, or I would have split hell wide open. I've headed that way. And at the rate I was going, I doubt if I would have made it past 30. I was doing everything possible to make sure it didn't happen. You are that person that somebody else needs. Only you can say and do the things that will trigger them and cause them to see the life that Jesus is talking about. The gospel is the same. We still have the poor, the brokenhearted, the oppressed. That's why you're here. When you see the need around you, it's my prayer and my belief that this church is a church that values people around them. And some of you are thinking, well, I don't see that all the time. I said, it's my prayer and my belief. We preach the gospel to the poor. We minister to the brokenhearted. We loose the captive. And we give sight to the blind. We love the oppressed. Because that's what Jesus